Well, I'm going to turn you guys a bunch of philosophers today. How many of you guys studied philosophy before? What kind? We've all had it. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, all that stuff. I'm going to get into something a bit different that's a bit more pragmatic. So about me, I was a Marine for 8 years. How many of you guys remember the old Glock store back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
I was a firearms instructor there. Some of you might have seen me as there from like 2012 to 2016. And I switched careers into being a executive protection agent in the personal security industry. And that's where I learned a lot about trying to become more of a philosopher than a warrior. Most of us, how many of you guys are warriors? All of you should raise your hands because all of you guys carry a gun, right? Every person here practicing self-defense, home defense carries a gun. And while you may not think you're a warrior right now, the moment you pull that trigger, you step into that zone. But the reality is, and we've all been drilled into our heads constantly about when to pull the gun, when not to pull the gun, right? And what happens if you pull the gun and squeeze the trigger and it's the wrong shoot? In California, you're going to jail. But even in California, if it is justified, it's not like when, you know, the movies where they roll up, you know, it's like the sheriff rolls up, well, what happened here, Bob? Well, Bill, the guy came on my property and I smoked him. All right, buried the body, cleaned up, have a nice day. I didn't like that. In California, the moment you pull that trigger, your life has changed, justified or not. So it's kind of like this. You pull the trigger, body goes down, you're like, oh my God, that just happened. And you might be thinking, well, I'm going to reach back and get my USCCA card or whatever it is. That's not a plug, by the way. It's not a plug at all. But you might reach back there and you might give a call and they're going to tell you don't talk to anybody. And then the police are going to come up. And it's not like you're going to say, what happened? Oh, well, he was in my house and I shot him. Okay, cool. You're good for the night. No, they're going to take you down. They're going to question you. And if you're found innocent, if you're found like, hey, it was justified shoot, it doesn't stop there. It goes into the civilian court, right? Or civil court, because what happens? Well, the family might say, well, he was just my baby boy. He was just lost or whatever it is. So they're going to sue you for wrongful death. And if you beat that, there's going to be a day where you wake up in a very, very cold sweat in the middle of the night wondering if it was really necessary to take that life. So today I'm going to try and give you some tools as a philosopher warrior to analyze the situations, analyze yourself. So that way you can be more cognitive, more aware, more thoughtful, and objective about when it's time to engage in combat. That moment when you step over as a warrior. So first things first, let's define some terms. By the way, if anyone has any questions while I'm talking, get past the slide and someone's like, hey, what's that term or what do you mean by that? Feel free to raise your hand. This is going to be more of a discussion, more of a talk. So, and it's PowerPoint, so we can break it up with some back and forth, some dialogue. So feel free, ask questions. So let's define some terms. The philosophy that we're going to talk about today is called Stoicism. Anyone heard of that before? Anyone ever heard the term being a Stoic?
Yes.
Right? What is that term? Everyone kind of looks like non-emotional, right? So like Spock. Well, that's what we call little s Stoicism. Stoicism isn't about suppression of emotion. It's about recognition of emotion and being able to operate despite those emotions. Being able to react under the influence of logic rather than emotion. That's what Stoicism does. It puts a little bit of logic in your brain to fight your limbic response to the external stimuluses that make you uncomfortable, that make you want to pull your firearm or get into an engagement or even a verbal argument that might escalate to a self-defense situation. That's what Stoicism is. It's a 2,500-year-old philosophy, so we're going way back. And it's a pragmatic philosophy in its practice, and it emphasizes logic and rationality in times of emotionally eliciting adversity and chaos. Now, this doesn't just go to a tactical point in your life. It goes in your personal life as well. You can take this home with you. So when someone upsets you, kid upsets you, or something upsets you in the morning, or politics, or social media, or work. You can use Stoicism as a tool to help calm your mind and find peace. What is philosophy? Simply put, the love of wisdom. Who doesn't love to be wise? I see some gray hairs in here, so I know there's a bit of wisdom going on in here. Who doesn't love wisdom, and who doesn't want to be a wise warrior? Do we want dumb warriors? Trigger pullers? Marines like myself? Rah! Cran eaters? Right? We want wise warriors, people who think, people who analyze, people who use logic and reason over emotion. What is a warrior? I asked you guys if you guys were all warriors. Some of you raised your hand, said, I'm a warrior. Heck yeah, I am. Well, it's an individual trained or skilled in combat or possessing qualities like courage and resilience. It can also describe individuals who display determination and moral strength in adversity. Every day you're at war with yourself, with society, with your mind, with your body. Every day you're practicing some type of warriorship. What is a gray man? Someone asked me what a gray man is. So as you guys saw up there, I run something called the Grayman Project. It's just an Instagram entity. That's all it is. What a gray man is what I consider the philosopher warrior. It's the strategic practice of blending into one's environment to make themselves less noticeable through selective choice of clothing and managing their behavior for the purpose of personal security and safety. A gray man must always be a philosopher first until it's time to break gray and become a warrior. How many of you guys ever heard the term gray man before? Right? Really, it's just a survival strategy that preppers started way back in the day. Think Book of Eli, like Denzel Washington bugging out across country. The reality of that situation just probably is not going to happen. People often use the term, use the gray man survival strategy as undercover police officer, intelligence operatives, executive protection individuals like myself, or when I'm doing PI work, right? You're trying to blend in with your environment, and the way you blend in with your environment is by selecting clothing that matches that environment. Now, I don't know if you guys used to go to the old gun shows back in the day, with like Del Mar and stuff like that, and what was everyone always wearing? Some sort of 511 and black polo tactical like outfit, right? So if you look like I do right now, or look like he does right now, with his arms crossed, looking very classic, I love the bolo, by the way, you would stick out, right? I can't tell you how many times I swear to God, there were more operators at the gun shows than there were actual operators in real life, I'm telling you. But a gray man is someone who takes consideration characteristics of the environment and dresses according to the populace in that environment, to include matching their behavior, matching the way they act, the way they talk, the nuances of that subculture or that society. That's what being a gray man is. It's a survival strategy where you blend in to attain your objective, whether it's a professional objective, survival objective, or a personal objective. And then mindset, a particular way of thinking, a set of beliefs, attitudes, and perspectives that shape how we interpret and respond to the world around us. And that's what we're going to try and implement today. We're going to try and set in a mindset, a philosopher warrior mindset, a way of thinking, a way of viewing the world around you differently than what you're used to. We all have these sets of biases that we are enculturated with, whether it's religious, ethnic, socioeconomic, gender. There's all these different biases, political biases, right? And how we view how people talk, how we view them physically, how we view the way they think, is a mindset based off of the enculturation we came from our biases. And what Stoicism, what being a philosopher means, is being able to set aside those biases, recognizing those biases and saying, okay, I feel this way, but is this way I'm feeling a rational response to this person? It's the way I'm feeling right now, this bias I have, truly the best way to think about things. So it's constantly questioning yourself. That's what a philosopher does. Constantly analyzing your own internal mind to determine whether you're acting under the influence of emotion or under reason. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right, we'll continue on. Now, why do I need to be a philosopher? You nerd, and I am a nerd. I am absolutely 100% a nerd. I was a Marine for 8 years, survival instructor, shooter. I'm a nerd with a gun. And that's basically what I am in executive protection. Now, some people might view executive protection like the big guys, you know, the bullet sponges that walk around with the celebrities. Those are bodyguards, right? There's a difference between bodyguards and EP. EP agents typically tend to be nerds with guns. We're more cerebral. We have to think of our environment. We have hard skills, but we press upon soft skills. And that's why we need to be philosophers, because as we're engaging our environment, we're looking at our environment, our clients out shaking hands, kissing babies, whatever it is, we're looking around for threats. We're looking around for people who might be, you know, adversarial to our client. So the study of philosophy, specifically Stoicism, helps those who are trained in or initiated in self-defense and firearms with improving and developing the following mental traits. So here we are as people who've been at a gun show all day. Some of us conceal a weapon all the time. Some of us are police officers. Some of us know self-defense, right? And so when it comes to that, you are initiated. You are initiated in some sort of combat or some sort of knowledge that requires you to hold the moral high ground at all times, to be objective and unbiased. Because if something happens where your behavior sparks or escalates a self-defense situation, you're going to be looked at differently, aren't you? When it goes to court, when it comes to the media. So because you are initiated in this knowledge, specific knowledge, you must maintain rationality and push aside your emotions at all times, especially out in the public, especially here. So here are some things, some mental traits to keep in mind that you want to adopt for your mindset. Emotional control. This is the management of emotional responses, especially in stressful situations, ensuring the CCW holder doesn't react impulsively to critical moments. Improved decision making. By encouraging clear, rational thoughts, Stoicism helps individuals make better decisions under pressure and necessary skill for safely carrying a concealed weapon. So this is all about why we're studying Stoicism as CCW holders, as super underwater ninja scuba sniper Jedi operators, right? This is why we want to study Stoicism. Now, it doesn't that mean you're going to be a philosopher at the end of the day. You're not going to be walking around looking at butterflies and crazy stuff and going, well, why does that exist, man? That's so crazy. It's not what this philosophy is about. It's pragmatic. It's a design for living. And lastly, Stoicism helps with internal stability. Helps you find peace and contentment within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. Now, this mindset can help prevent CCW holders from using their weapon as a reactionary measure to external provocations. Internal stability. You see, Stoics talk about the fact that you can't control a lot of things. And you have to accept that, otherwise your mental environment is going to eat you alive. So the first thing, throughout the day, nothing's in your control. You get in a car, there's traffic, people call you, you might lose your job, your kid does something, your wife, your husband does something. You can't control that. But what you can do is help put yourself in a mindset for the rest of the day by when you wake up, doing something that is within your control. The moment you open your eyes, that's the moment you have control about how the rest of your day is going to go in your head, how you're going to feel about things in your head. So whether you get up in the morning, open your eyes, and you flip open a Stoic book, or you go exercising, or do a cold water plunge. I do that a couple times, and I'm like, good God, why do people do this? But your internal stability is so important for those of you guys who do carry a weapon, who do carry a gun or a knife, or are a protector of somebody. So why do I need to be a philosopher, or why do I need to be a philosopher? So here's some more mental traits. So the study of philosophy, specifically Stoicism, helps those trained or initiated in self-defense and firearms with improving and developing the following mental traits. So here we go, a little bit more. Control over fear. Stoic practices often involve preparing oneself for worst-case scenarios, which can help CCW holders manage their fear and anxiety, maintaining composure in threatening situations. Discipline and training. The Stoic emphasis of regular self-examination and discipline can encourage CCW holders to maintain consistent training and preparedness. How many of you guys carry a concealed firearm all the time? Now, how often do you get to the range?
Every week, 2 to 3 times a month, maybe.
There you go. Perishable skill, right? I've had, no offense to the 1911 guys in here, but I on my Instagram, I posted on there was funny is I said the worst thing about World War III, aside from the atrocities and war crimes, is going to be 1911 carriers and boomers screaming 3 world wars, and that upset a lot of people in the 1911 community. And what's funny is a few would say, well, I just need 1 shot. All right. So first of all, 1 shot from a 1911 to 45, you're going to need more than that, especially if you haven't been to the range in a very long time. Most people don't get to the range but once a year, a couple times a year. You're going to need more than 1 shot, guys. I promise you. You're going to need a couple, even if it's a 45. So you might miss. So you got to really focus on discipline and training, getting out there, going to the range, perfecting your craft. And the reason why is because you're not just saving your life, you're ensuring that that round impacts the target where it needs to go, because if it doesn't impact that target, where does it go?
Maybe into an innocent victim or innocent bystander.
My kid, you, someone else's kid, someone's wife, someone who just wanted to live a peaceful life and now they got hit with a round. So you have to make sure you consistently discipline yourself like a Stoic. Force yourself out there. Another thing is physical fitness. Physical fitness is a big part of combat. That's why we Marines have to be in shape all the time. A lot of people say, well, I got a gun. Okay, Wheezy McWeezerstein, if you got to take a knee and you can't breathe and hold your firearm steady when you take a knee and stand back up again, you're a liability. And you're either 2 people in this life. You're either an asset or you're a liability. Which one are you? Because if you're not maintaining some sort of standard physical regimen, whether it's walking or running or push-ups or whatever it is, you're not going to be effective as much as you need to, because when you're in shape, you stand a better chance of making better decisions. You have a better chance of being able to hold that firearm long when you need to, and being able to run and gun if you need to, especially in a mass shooting. You got to run to find cover. What was that one guy a couple of years ago? He put 8 rounds at 40 yards out of 10 shots. He made 8 impacts at 40 yards. I'm at 25 yards. I'm like, oh no, you did this. He braced. He braced up and he took, and in that time, he's controlling his breathing. When you are more in shape, you can control your breathing more. Your heart rate is more controlled. You're not bouncing the front sight around, because at what, 5, 10, 15, or 7 yards, we can shoot a target without having to look at our sights, right? 40 yards, he is perfectly aligning those sights to put 8 rounds on target. That means his breathing's in check and his heart rate's in check. It's an interesting thought to think of. And then crisis management. Stoic resilience and the ability to remain calm during crisis are vital in emergency situations, allowing CCWs to think clearly and potentially prevent unnecessary violence. So, there are 4 virtues that Stoics practice that you can practice as well. And most of us practice. Do we have Christians in here? Everyone's a Christian for the most part, right? You guys practice you guys, I'm a Christian as well. Practice 4 virtues that we adopted from Stoics. So in Stoicism, virtues are not mere traits, but the core foundations of ethical living, crucial for concealed carry weapon holders who should shoulder the immense responsibility of potential life and death decisions. To start your path on a philosopher warrior, it's important to embody Stoicism's 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These principles provide a moral compass, ensuring actions stem from rational judgment rather than emotional impulse. Again, we always want to make decisions on the influence of reason and logic, not emotion. And like this, we're all told that we should never make decisions on the influence of drugs and alcohol, right? never get behind a car, never operate a firearm or heavy machinery. So what? Your emotions affect and cloud your judgment the same way drugs and alcohol does. So if we know that we shouldn't make decisions on the influence of drugs and alcohol, why are we still allowing ourselves to make decisions on the influence of emotions? Not that emotions are bad. They're not. We're humans. We're all part of the human condition. There is no cure. We're always going to feel that. You can't stop that. But you can control how you respond to your emotions. And that's what you should pay attention to. And that's what we're talking about today. So the first virtue of a Stoic philosopher is wisdom. As a philosopher warrior, you must recognize the difference between what's within your control and what's out of your control. From there, you must disregard what is out of your control and focus on what you can. There are two things that are within your control at all times. You have the ability to control your emotions and subsequently control your actions. That's it. You don't have control over your body because your heart might quit, right? You don't have control over traffic. You don't have control over your job. They can fire you. You certainly try and influence it, for sure. But ultimately, the outcome is not within your control, but through controlling your emotions, through controlling your actions, you can try and influence the outcome. You do have control over that trigger, though, don't you? And you want to make sure that before you pull that trigger, you have absolute control over your emotions to make sure that that action is of clear judgment. As a CCW holder, you must remain indifferent to external events you can't control, focusing on how you respond to them. When you control your emotions regarding external events, you can then control your actions better and respond with better judgment and a clear mind, thus making you more personally and tactically effective. The biggest thing is, and what's important, is not to allow external events throughout the day bother you. That's the point of Stoicism, is to keep your mind clear, to push away the things that might bother you. Whether someone says something about you. Marcus Aurelius said, reject your sense of injury and you won't be injured. You have the choice to accept disrespect. If you accept disrespect, yes, you have then been disrespected, haven't you? But in reality, it's just a noise from someone's mouth, right? We might want to get into a fight. When I was a young Marine, oh man, was I an idiot. I absolutely was. I was a Lance Corporal for a long time. I had a mouth on me. Imagine that. But you have to understand, like when I was a Marine, the first thing someone said something to me like, hey, you dumbass, do this or that, whatever, I'd want to pop them, right? I'm allowing that person's noises from their mouth control my actions. And some of you guys, I don't care how old you are, it still happens. Again, we're all human beings. We all experience it. Someone says something that you don't like, opinion from politics you don't like, it sparks your emotion. Think of it like this. When the media is out talking about politics that you don't like or disagree with, or subjects you don't like or disagree with, what happens? People get on social media. They start comment, sharing. And what you're doing is you're doing the bidding of the media. They don't care whether you like it or not. They want you to share all that information because it highlights their algorithmic response. They like when you do that stuff. So you're allowing someone's words and actions to control your actions. And finally, don't let yourself get worked up about external events and things beyond your control. Let go. Refocus your mind onto your emotions and actions. This is the path to better safety, security, survival, and internal peace. You're going to want to stay present in every action. When your mind begins to wander, when you're driving down the road and you start, having an argument with an imaginary person and think of all the awesome things you're going to say, you start going down that road, you start developing that anger, that anxiety. In order for you to control that, you have to stay present. You have to stay mindful. And we all heard the term mindful. The hippies are like, oh yeah, you just got to be mindful, man. No, seriously, you should be mindful about everything that you're doing throughout the day. I'll give you guys some quotes on wisdom. This one's by Epictetus. Epictetus was a Stoic philosopher. Literally, his name means owned. He was a slave. He had a bum leg. He said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can control and what you can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness becomes possible. And of course, I think we've all seen the last quote here. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Right? So when you're out there and someone makes you angry, or something makes you angry, like traffic, or someone at Starbucks taking way too long to order a 15-ingredient coffee, you can't control that. You got to control your actions, your emotions. Why are you going to let someone who you don't know bother you? It's at that point where you can try and be mindful about how you feel in that moment. Like, well, I'm angry right now. Well, why am I angry? I can't control this. So why am I letting it upset myself? I can't control this, so I'm upset. Why? Is this helping me? No, it's pissing me off for the rest of the day. I'm going to get in my car, and then I'm going to drive down the I-5, get stuck in traffic, be more upset, get to work late. Manager's going to be mad at me. Like, every little thing that happens that you don't check builds to the end of the day. At the end of the day, you go home, and then what happens? You're angry, you're upset. Your kids are like, oh, you know, your wife or your husband's like, oh man, you had a bad day. And then what happens? How do you relax? People start drinking, don't they? And you start poisoning yourself. You start using substance to try and solve your anger issues, when it could have just been easier if you controlled at that point. Be mindful about how you felt in that situation. Because you might get upset about that, then all of a sudden someone outside does something crazy, and you all of a sudden think it's a threat because you're inside your own brain. You go to draw, it's not a threat. Uh-oh. Everyone with a cell phone just wants you to draw your weapon and brandish a weapon. Control your anger. Be wise. Know what's within your control. Accept the things that are within your control, your emotions, your actions, and let go everything else. There's no reason to hold on to it. Courage. Oh, wow. All right. The 4 virtues of courage. The Stoicism courage is action in the face of adversity. It transcends mere fearlessness, but also encompasses clarity, ethical steadfastness, and composed assertiveness in the face of adversity. For CCW holders identifying as philosopher warriors, this virtue is foundational, guiding the responsible and ethical use of the power to carry. More profoundly, moral courage requires a profound commitment to justice, underscoring the grave responsibility involved in making potentially lethal decisions. And mental and emotional courage are pivotal in Stoicism. It requires mastery over one's impulses and fears. For the armed individual, these forms of courage mean maintaining a clear, rational mind during crises, controlling any urge to react in anger, understanding the dire implications of each decision they make. The stability is crucial for de-escalation, preventing unnecessary conflict. Stoicism, the Stoic courage is action in the face of adversity. No matter what adversity you're facing, whether it's little or big, that's what courage is. It's continuing on, right? And there is courage in letting go of things out of your control that might upset you. Some guy saying something willy-nilly to you that you might want to pop in the face. All right, that's noise from your mouth. Now let it go, man. Here's a couple quotes on Stoic courage. Seneca the Younger, his brothers of Gallio. Who knows Paul from the Bible? Was it Paul or John was brought before Gallio? Right? Was it Paul?
Yes.
All right. Paul was brought before Gallio by the Jews, and he was like, yeah, he's spreading Christianity, and Gallio was like, care? Take him outside. Get out of here. His biological brother, Seneca the Younger, was a philosopher and advisor to Nero. Not the greatest guy in the world, but he said, I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. You have passed through life without an opponent, and no one can ever know what you are capable of, not even you. Marcus Aurelius said, you say it's fortunate that this has happened to me. No, it's fortunate that this has happened and I've remained unharmed by it, not shattered by the present or frightened of the future. It could have happened to anyone, but not everyone could have remained unharmed by it. Right? You can choose how you feel about a situation. It's not about what happens to you, it's about how you react to it that makes the difference. And lastly, this is one of my favorites, because if you have anxiety, if you're worried about the future all the time, or worried about what's going to happen, if you lost your job, or whatever happened in your life, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, but with the same weapons of reason, which today arm you against the present. The same weapons of reason that you use today, every day, you're going to use in the future. You're going to be all right. I promise you. Justice. Not so much like malum in se or malum prohibitum or the legal justice. Stoic justice is about kindness, dignity, and respect. It's about treating others with kindness, dignity, and respect, regardless of how they treat you. Now, it's kind of one of those weird things, right? If someone's mean to you, you're probably asking, you want me to treat them with kindness, dignity, and respect? Yes. Not for them, for you. So you can find peace regardless of how they feel about you. It's not your problem what they think about you. Seneca said, when someone speaks ill of you, rather than make excuses for what is said, say, they must be ignorant of my other faults. Otherwise, they would not have mentioned these ones alone. Some of the Stoics were smartasses back in the day. But think about that. Who cares what people say about you? Maintain the moral high ground all the time. Find your peace. Why let it bother you? If you let it bother you, then you're going to want to punch them in the face, and then you've escalated the situation. And these days, it's not about going behind a barn, making a few swings, grabbing a beer. It's about assault charges and social media cancellation, isn't it? Right? Everyone's got their cell phone on. I'm video recording you. You see that? See that? See what you're doing? And now you're all over the internet. And of course, everyone takes things out of context, videos out of context, right? The other thing is treat yourself with kindness, dignity, and respect. You got to do that. Otherwise, the world's going to eat you alive. We're almost on the brink of World War III. And if you don't treat yourself with some kindness, dignity, and respect, you're going to eat yourself up, man. You got to forgive yourself for things that you've done in the past that you can't change. Right? So treat others with kindness, dignity, and respect, regardless of how they treat you, because you want to practice that virtue. You want to be the Stoic philosopher that day. Right? Reject your sense of injury, and you won't be injured. Here's some Stoic quotes on justice. This is Marcus Aurelius. He had this meditation. Does everyone know who Marcus Aurelius was? He was the last of the great 5 emperors of Rome. And you might know him for like Gladiator, right? Gladiator, the movie. Well, Marcus Aurelius was a real-life Roman emperor. He's about as close to Plato's philosopher king that you can get. And he wrote a diary to himself every single day. And that book is called Meditations. But it was a diary. It was never meant to be seen by human eyes. And all he did every day was write to himself, be a good person, live a good life, find peace. Don't treat people like crap. He was the emperor of the known world. He could have been a complete a-hole.
Different than the movie.
Very different than the movie. He could have been a complete a-hole, but he wasn't. He just wanted to live a life of peace and treat the people of Rome well. Unless you were a Gaul, and then he would just slaughter you. He was in war with the Gauls the whole time. He said, and keep in mind, this is him talking to himself. That's something they take in consideration about who you meet throughout the day that might bother you, right? When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But they are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I've seen the beauty of good and the ugliness and the evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but of the same mind, and possessing a share in the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, eyes, like 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, this is unnatural. In other words, we all possess the capability for reason, and we all possess the capability for evil. So we can't be mad at human nature, because human nature can't change. You can't control other people's human nature, but you can understand it. And you can move past it, forgive it. Try not to escalate until they hold a gun to your face or rob you or get in your home or try and hurt your child. And then all bets are off. Then you become a warrior. Keep in mind, I'm trying to teach you guys to be pacifists. Because when it's time to take off the philosopher mask, you better turn into the nastiest warrior you can be and set about causing hate and discontent on those that have tried to harm you or harm people around you. Especially like if you're in a mass shooting situation. Temperance, my favorite of all the virtues. Restraint, moderation. Moderation in all things. Moderation in how you view people, how you treat people, how you think, your politics, your consumption. Moderation in your diet, your exercise. Moderation in all things helps you become a better person at the end of the day. It becomes a better philosopher. Moderation helps you become a better warrior because it helps you become more judicial in how you react to a situation that might warrant the use of your firearm. Temperance for CCW holders and Philosopher Warriors is about self-control and moderation to ensure they avoid overreaction, excessive force, applying their power judiciously and ethically. This restraint is vital in crisis situations, helping maintain calm and preventing unnecessary escalation. Temperance. This is Marcus Aurelius again, talking to himself. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what is in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and on freeing yourself from other distractions. Yes, you can, if you do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life, and stop being aimless. Stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you. Stop being hypocritical, self-centered, irritable. You see how few things you have to do to live a satisfying, reverent life? If you can manage this, this is all even the gods can ask of you, right? All right, let's form the mindset. Mindset refers to the establishment and set of attitudes held by somebody, a collection of thoughts and beliefs to shape one's thoughts and habits and mental disposition. It's a powerful determinant in the way of individuals perceive their capabilities, make decisions, and view the world around them and their actions. Your mindset on how you view events outside your mind and events that are inherently adversarial determine your actions and ultimately, as a CCW holder, your ability to save a life or take a life. The development of the philosopher mindset to complement your warrior mindset will help create a well-rounded strategist as a CCW holder. So what is the philosopher mindset? Philosophers historically are known in the modern area are concerned with understanding the principles that drive knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. Stoics emphasize inner fortitude, wisdom, and perspective, focusing less on emotional response and more on logic and reason. Key elements of a Stoic mindset include rationality, control and endurance, self-reliance, acceptance, community, and humanity. Rationality, Stoics believe in the reason over emotion, making decisions based on logic, clear thinking, and understanding rather than impulsive and emotional reactions. Control and endurance, central to Stoicism is understanding what's within your control and what's not, and then maintaining composure and inner stability regardless. Self-reflection. Stoics engage in rigorous self-examination, reflecting on personal actions, thoughts, and values to live a life of virtue and integrity. And that's what I'm talking about when you're trying to be mindful and present. Asking yourself, why am I angry right now? Why am I upset? Why am I mad about this? And do I really need to be? Is this going to affect how I defend myself? Acceptance. There's a strong focus on accepting the present moment and not being overly concerned with past regrets or future anxieties. The community and humanity. Stoics see themselves as a part of a larger human community, the advocate of justice and kindness, and believing in doing right by others. As someone who carries a firearm, you are doing right by others. Regardless of what they feel about you, you are a protector. And when it comes down to it, they may not like it, but you may be the one that saves their life. So what is a warrior mindset? A warrior is typically concerned with cultivating the mental and physical skills necessary to combat, for combat and strategy. The mindset warrior is often characterized by courage, facing danger, adversity with fears with bravery. Discipline, rigorous training, adherence to a code of conduct and honor, often requiring immense self-control and adherence to duty. Resilience, an ability to recover and persist in the face of loss, defeat, or changes in the environment. Tactical thinking, quick decision-making skills often necessary in high-stakes situations or battles. Focus, concentrating on immediate goals, missions, strategies, often honing physical response and reflex to peak condition. So, for those who didn't think they were a warrior before, does this seem kind of familiar? Is this something that you guys practice every single day? We should, right? Most of you do. Most of you have courage, discipline, resilience, tactical thinking, and focus. These are all characteristics of a warrior mindset that allows you to be able to protect yourself. And then the philosopher warrior mindset is this: measured courage, facing fears and adversity with bravery, but not rashly or without reason. Actions are based on principled decisions rather than impulsive actions. Right? Strategic endurance, resilience of a warrior combined with stoic attitude of endurance, allowing one to navigate or withstand life's battles with composure or ethical fortitude. Rational discipline, focused acceptance, ethical engagement. This is all combining the Stoic philosophy of the warrior to make your warrior more effective, more rational, but also more lethal. You know, when you pull that trigger, you want to make sure that you are of a rational mind, so that way your emotions aren't clouding your next tactics, whether you're seeking cover, doing a mag exchange, running up on somebody, advancing on somebody. In the Marine Corps, we were taught tactics, but at the end of the day, you had to be a thinker. So remember that when you're trying to become a philosopher warrior, is when you're practicing the Stoicism, when you're studying it, it's not just about preventing it, but also making sure you are exponentially more lethal when it comes time to pull that trigger. All right, so what's the gray man? We're running low on time here, I imagine, right? Yeah. All right. Let me see. I thought this was actually going to run shorter. I was kind of nervous about it. I like to talk, though. Okay, so what is a gray man? What does that have to do with being a philosopher warrior and carrying a CCW? Well, the gray man concept refers to an individual who operates under the radar, unnoticed, blending in with the crowd. Even though they are prepared for various emergencies, this person is vigilant, aware, understanding their surroundings and dynamics at play without drawing attention to themselves. This concept, when applied to the idea of the philosopher warrior, involves certain mindset and set of principles. When you are a CCW, when you're carrying your weapon concealed, you're already practicing the gray man. That means you're not letting everyone see your cars. You're not letting people know that you are armed. I'm not against open carry. I just think it's strategically unsound. I think because people say, let's say, well, I can see the enemy coming. All right, well, unless you have eyes in the back of your head, a Sharpie to the back of the head can feel like a gun if someone says, don't move, right? And then they can disarm you from the rear, right? Why would you come up front if you're going to disarm somebody and attack somebody? Criminals are cowards. So, I have my own flavor of what gray man is, but I think you guys get the gist of it. Let's see. All right, so how do we create the philosopher warrior mindset? Developing and maintaining a philosopher warrior mindset through Stoic philosophy involves a series of disciplined practices and mental preparations. This approach helps CCW holders ensure they are mentally, emotionally, and ethically ready to carry, and if necessary, use weapons responsibly. Here's how one can begin this journey. Study Stoic principles. I'm gonna give you guys some resources at the end and where to find me. So if you have questions about Stoicism, where to start, or different things that you wanna ask me, I'm on Instagram, and I'll give you guys my handle at the end of the presentation, and you can go from there. Practice mindfulness and self-control every single day, every moment. When you're mindful, when you're losing your temper, be mindful about it. Say, okay, what can I do to release this energy without putting my fist in this guy's face? I can go for a run. I can go to the range. I'm going to go to the gym. Engage in scenario planning. We do it all the time. How many times as guys are we always in our heads like, okay, well, if this guy comes around the corner, I'm going to move around. We use our imagination. We have this hero complex as men, and some women too, where we imagine a scenario and be like, my wife goes, what are you thinking about? I'm like, you don't want to know. It's stupid. Reflect daily. Every day before you go to bed, reflect on your actions throughout the day. Were my actions virtuous? Were they just? Were they tactical? Were they rational? Strive to go to bed a better person when you woke up. Continue learning and training. Obviously, we go to the range. We look at YouTube videos. Watch Instructor Zero do some weird stuff on the range and think we're going to do it out on the range. It's not going to happen, nor is it pragmatic. So by integrating everything I talked to you guys about today, you can begin to become a philosopher. I'm not saying you're going to be a philosopher tomorrow. I'm not a philosopher. I'm a jackass who happens just to read this stuff. as you go throughout and study this stuff, and it gains interest, it's not just like one of those things where you're like, okay, well, that was cool, and you forget about it. It's a continuous study. It's a continuous practice for yourself to remain rational, thoughtful about everything you do in your life. If it involves some sort of survival for yourself, for your family, for your life, your property, and your liberty, start thinking about these things. Commit yourself to adopting the Grayman survival strategy and becoming a philosopher warrior goes beyond CCW, firearm survival, preparedness. Those survival strategies are tools and skills that help you survive external events. However, the Philosopher Warrior Mindset also gives you tools and skills to help you survive the harshest environment you will ever endure, your mind. This will kill you before anything else will. You can have all the cool tools and skills in the world, but if you can't survive your mind, you're not going to survive the real world. You're not going to survive events. If the person at Starbucks got your drink wrong and you're upset about that, start asking yourself, well, can I survive if I get into an actual shooting? Right? You've got to survive your mind. And that's my information right there. That's my email. And then that's my Instagram is grayman.project. And I'm always on there talking, always on there live, and always posting things out there on different podcasts. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you leave that up so I can take a picture?
Oh, yeah, let me move it real quick.
Get out of the way, Brady.
You got it?
Remember this. It's not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation.